Bob Maloney from My MMA News, and I am a guest today at Dante Rivera BJJ, and I'm here to visit my man Phil Caracappa, the Hitman. Phil, how are you?
Good, awesome, feeling great.
That's great. Phil is the defending Ring of Combat Bantamweight champion. He's 6-0, and he's defending against Lou Gardneau coming up on September 21st. Phil, according to Tapology, is a second-ranked bantamweight in New Jersey, number 7 in the Northeast, number 43 overall. I've been lucky enough to be at his last 4 fights, and Phil has been evolving. And listen, this is a huge fight for him. I expect great things. Phil, you've been steadily fighting every 2, 3, 4 months. It seems like after you get done a fight, you get a little time for your body to rest, and then you're right back in camp. How's that worked out for you? Are you feeling stronger and better, in best shape of your life, even though it's been a grind?
Yeah, I mean, so for the last year, I mean, I made my pro debut a year and a half ago, so every 2, 3 months, it's been perfect, going great, and I say it every time, but this is by far the best I've ever felt. I had a few different things to my camp, so I'm excited to get back in there.
Well, listen, when you first got into the sport, we talked before, you had a wrestling background, so you already had cutting weight and cardio. You knew how important that was. How do you feel about the rest of your game? Have you rounded out? I know you told me that you love to stand now, so
right.
Obviously you got to feel comfortable on your takedown and takedown defense.
Totally.
And how about your submissions and your stand-up? You feel really comfortable? Do you actually enjoy that now more than the wrestling part?
Yeah, so the wrestling part, I like to just use it as my, backup. If the fight gets tough, I know I can, rely on my wrestling. But now, since I started training with, Frankie Edgar, Marlon, I even spar with Zabit now. Then I got my guys here like Tim Dooling. I just added stand-up to, my repertoire, and I just feel like I've overall gotten so much better. And then on top of that, my jiu-jitsu with Dante is just, I'm going to be able to showcase that in this fight too if it goes to the ground, so I'm excited.
Give me an example of your typical day, because obviously you're training with Brian, you're training with Dante, you're training at multiple facilities, you're trying to get sparring in. Give me like a typical week for you. Now listen, we're a little less than 3 weeks out, so obviously you're going to be winding down a little bit
Right.
with the weight cut and not wanting to get hurt. During your camp, what's a typical day for you? How many hours do you get to train? How many places do you visit on a single day?
So, I mean, I just joined the Carpenters Union, so I've been working full-time with that, and then I add into that is I'm training every day. I mean, after work, I get home at around 3:30, then I'm going to Brian's doing stand-up, or I'm coming here and doing cage work with Dante or jiu-jitsu, and then Tuesday mornings, I spar at Ricardo's with Marlon, Frankie Edgar, Zabit. Saturdays, I spar, same thing, at Nick Catone's with all the guys from Ricardo's and Nick. So, I mean, my week is just looking like Dante, Killer B, and Nick Catone, Ricardo's every single day.
Well, listen, with all that grinding and training with world-class athletes, I know it's a tough grind. Who's 1 or 2 of the guys that you know that you can count on that's going to like break the mood and make you laugh? Who's going to bust your stones? Who's going to say something to make you laugh? Who's one of the funnier guys that you train with?
I mean, I just have to go. I mean, off the top of my head, it's got to be Dante. I mean, he's the jokester of everything. I mean, he keeps the mood real light and everything. Always keeps it fun. I mean, I got my Brian, who's straight edge, gets down to it, and then you have Dante, who he just jokes around a lot and makes it fun.
Now listen, I have always written about Dante because I've gotten to see him fight, and now I've gotten to see him just work corners and be an instructor, and he's one of my favorite watches as far as cornering because he's so demonstrative, he's so loud. You do hear him in there when you're fighting? Because I know other fighters kind of like try to block it out. They don't want to hear anything.
Right.
But you do hear Dante yelling and giving you instructions?
Yeah, that's the only guy I hear in there. I mean, if I hurt my guy, I hear him go and he's hurt, and then, that's when I go in for the kill. Or if he says, I mean, if you ask him yourself, he says coaching me like in the cage is like him playing a video game. I listen to him like exactly what he says, and just hearing him in there, it's, I know I need that for the rest of my career.
Does he sit down with you and maybe whether watch film or go over a game plan or try to strategize with you, or how does that work with your game? Because listen, MMA has become much more than let's just go in the cage or let's just go on the mat. It's become a thinking man's game. You want to break down your opponent. For a guy like you're fighting Lou Gardneau, even though he hasn't fought in 2.5 years, I'm sure there's plenty of film out there. He's been in the UFC. He's fought some really tough guys. Do you spend time strategizing with Dante? Do you go over any of that kind of stuff?
We strategize, yeah, but I mean, we don't look too much into my opponents. I mean, yeah, there's a lot out with my opponent Lewis, and I know what his go-tos are, and his strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, we go over game plan, but we work more of in what works for me, and he sees after every fight what I can get better on, and what I'm already good at. So yeah, we strategize, but we stick to the game plan, and we just add different tools every camp.
Now listen, it's got to feel good as the defending champ. I mean, Ring of Combat may be the best regional promotion in the country.
Definitely
I mean,
is.
there's over 130 guys that have gone on to the UFC from there. I don't know if anybody can make that claim. So obviously, it's got to feel good walking out there with the belt. Are you able to have who humbles you? Who keeps you humble from getting too big of a head? Because obviously you're training with world class guys. But
Right.
listen, you're the champ, and obviously you sell a lot of tickets. You're very popular, so people are always telling you how great you are. I mean, I'm guilty of that. I tell you how
Right.
great you are. Who kind of knocks you down a peg? Who keeps you humble?
So that would be my other coach, Brian Wright. I mean, he keeps it real. If I'm thinking I'm doing really good, he'll shoot me down a little to keep me level-headed. And I have to give a lot of credit to him for my success and for keeping me humble, because yeah, I am the Ring of Combat champ, and I'm very confident going in there now because I know who I train with and what I've done, who I have on my resume. So definitely Brian keeps me very level-headed and humble going into my fights.
All right, listen, we're less than 3 weeks out. We're getting down the co-main event or the main event. Don't know what they're doing over there. You're heading out. Lou Gaudino, UFC experience. You said you're confident. How do you feel about your opponent? What do you see? What's it going to take for you to leave there with your belt?
I'm just gonna go out there and just do what I always do, and that's win. I mean, I have no pressure on me this fight. This guy's been in the UFC. He has a huge resume. Got a couple fight of the nights in the UFC. He's got the whole Tiger Showman on his back. He's got like five of his teammates that are already in the UFC. So he's got a lot to prove. I got nothing to prove. I'm the champ. I'm gonna go out there. I'm excited. No pressure on me, and I'm gonna look for the finish. I really am. I want to make a statement in this fight, and I want to put him back into retirement because it's been 2.5 years since he's fought. He hasn't been in there with anyone like me. I can promise that. He's fought a bunch of 125 pounders. He's coming up a weight class, and he's gonna feel the difference for sure.
Well, I'm a fan. You got to know this man, the Hitman, Phil Caracappa. He's probably one win away from the Contender Series or a straight-out contract in UFC. He's that good. Phil, it's a pleasure coming to see you at your place. Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you.
Before we go out, I know you got a lot of people that are helping you both, physically and emotionally and financially. Give some love out to the people who are helping you get ready for this fight.
Definitely. I mean, first off, my team, all my teammates, and shout out to 2 of my teammates that are on the card, me, Joe Schick and Tim Dooling. Gotta give shout out to Dante, Brian Wright, my recovery team, that's Thrive Spine and Sports Rehab. If you haven't checked them out, they're in Spring Lake, best around. They keep me going every day, that I can work full time and train full time. So they're awesome. I got my strength and conditioning, Bulldog, and one of my biggest sponsors is WT Carpentry and Terrace Bagels right out of Freehold. So that's all I want to shout out. And besides my family who support me day in and day out with this, and they definitely help me keep this dream alive.
Phil, man, it was a pleasure. Big things are coming for you. I can't wait to
very
see you
much.
do your thing. We'll see you cage side on the
Appreciate it.
21st. And like I said,
One more thing, Louis Gaudino, your nickname is Goodnight, and I'm going to make sure that's for a reason. So I'll see you September 21st.
Ring of Combat, baby. Doesn't get any better. The Hitman's coming.
Let's go.